Hi, I'm Laura Boyd and welcome to the latest episode of Beatson Talks, where today I am joined by Geoff Clark. Geoff, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Nice to have you here.
Thanks.
How are you doing, first of all?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming along and sharing your story. So tell me a bit about how cancer came into your life and your kind of journey with the Beatson. Take me back to what happened.
It was quite a sudden arrival for me. I got up as usual. I can't remember what day of the week it was, going to work, and I was feeling kind of sick. I got to work and began to feel even more sick and rushed to the toilet, and I was sick, and I drove home and I went to bed, and I couldn't stand any bright lights. There's a kind of increased sort of sensitivity to light. And I was in my bed for 2 or 3 days. And then without opening the curtains, so it was kind of strange to then emerge from that and return to work. And I thought, okay, I've been ill. I don't know what it was, but it was pretty bad. And I just need to get back on my feet and keep going. But that wasn't the end, that was the beginning, where each day I would suddenly have a feeling of nausea. My vision on the right side of my visual field would disappear. And if I was trying to read something, I couldn't make any sense of the words. I could see all the letters, but I couldn't form any words. So that was the beginning.
Did it cross your mind then that it could be something serious, or did you just kind of think, oh, I've got a virus, or you tend to? I think everyone puts everything down to a virus.
I thought it's probably some kind of something I've eaten or a bug or something like that. Yeah, and that it would just disappear. And over the following weeks, I had these. Well, I know now that they were called seizures, not full seizures, as in I wasn't rolling around on the floor, but I think they're called partial seizures. So these would appear just randomly at some point during the day for a minute or two. And, the visual disturbance, the feeling of nausea, the inability to read. So it would last a couple of minutes and then disappear. I think I sort of tried to ignore it completely, because I thought it seems to be diminishing. Eventually it will go away completely. But it didn't. And part of the reason that I didn't seek help at the time or go to a doctor was my dad was in terminal decline. He was in the last kind of 2 years of his life. So I felt like, I know this is probably serious, but I don't want to add that to the family mix. Yeah,
you're so consumed with what's going on there. You don't need another thing almost to come into it. Gosh.
Yeah. So eventually, after a couple of years of having these random...
So you had a couple of years?
A couple of years.
Wow.
But by that point, my dad had died, and I thought, well, I can now focus on me and try and figure out what this is. And I went to the GP, and he suggested it was a migraine. I thought, well, that's a reasonable suggestion, but I don't think this is what's going on. So I decided to have myself tested. And I went to Bupa and said, can you give me a full health check of everything? I think it's quite expensive. It was at the time, it was £500. So they check, your blood pressure.
An MOT, basically,
exactly,
your body.
You check your lungs, your blood pressure, all that sort of stuff. So after I got the results of that, I realised that everything from the neck down was okay. So it must be in the head, in the brain somewhere. And that's when I went back to the GP and said, I think this is
more serious
than you initially thought. And then they send you off for a scan to figure out what's going on in the brain. Is there anything wrong in there? And I kind of knew what to expect because I'd already done the work of ruling all these other things out. And
were you frightened?
I don't think I was frightened. I think I'd kind of resigned myself to it being some kind of brain tumour. I think, and I didn't know anything about brain tumours, so I didn't know whether it would be something that would be rapid and kill me off, or something that was going to run a bit more slowly. It seemed like it had run slowly up until that point, so I didn't think it was going to suddenly progress. Yeah.
And then did they send you to the Beatson then, or how did you find out? How did you get the diagnosis?
Well, I got the scan results, and all the scan results can tell you really is it's probably a brain tumour. And from that point onwards, they decided to just scan me first of all, every 3 months to see if anything was changing. And then every 6 months because it wasn't changing. It seemed that it wasn't changing at all.
Yeah.
It was completely stable. So that went on for quite a long time.
A good few years,
A good few years, yeah.
And were you able to live your life normally in that time? Because I know when I go every 3 months and my results are all completely fine just now, but it doesn't stop me every time I go having that, that night before kind of fear and that worry. Were you able to carry on or was there always an anxious feeling?
Yeah, but I was able to carry on. I suppose, you wonder, is it going to stay the same forever? Or is it going to change? And I just got used to, after having 6 monthly scans and each one them saying, it's fine, next one, it's fine, next one, it's fine. And then you're shocked when it comes to the point where they say, no, it's not fine.
And how far into it was that? How many years were you?
I think, and originally I got the first symptoms in 2011, so I think it was about 2014, 15, something like that.
Gosh, you had a good few years then. And what was that moment like when they said, we need to do something else here?
Yeah, it was a shock.
Yeah.
Because I thought, well, whatever it is, it's just going to sit there and do nothing for it. And I'll live with it. I was given, I didn't tell you about the drugs that I was given when I was told it was a brain tumour to control the partial seizure activity. They give you a drug, which I think is lamotrigine or lamictal, which is quite often used for patients who have bipolar.
Ah, right.
And I think it's to stabilise the activity in the brain.
Yeah.
And that worked up to a point, but it didn't get rid of those visual disturbances. And the visual disturbances meant that I had to surrender my driving licence.
Gosh.
Which is quite a difficult.
It's such a big part of your life. Were you able to work and go on holiday and things?
Yeah, I was still able to go to work, but losing the ability to drive in the car was quite a difficult one. But there's an old saying, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
Indeed.
So I took up cycling. And I started cycling sometimes 100 miles, then 200, then 300 miles a week, and in the summer, you know. So I really honestly believe that if you look after yourself physically, then the mental part of it is also looked after. You know?
I have a friend who I work with who has been through breast cancer twice, and she took up cycling. And I remember her saying whatever drug she was on made her bones very achy. And the only time she felt normal was when she was on a bike.
Yeah.
And now she's completely fine, and she's been great for years. But she is obsessed with cycling, and that's her every holiday and everything. And she looks and is fitter than she's ever been in her life. And I know she puts everything down to getting on that bike.
Yeah. I'm sure it's true of other forms of exercise. There is it feels like some sort of brain cleansing almost that goes on. Yeah. So
You're making me feel very guilty as I scoffed a slice of pizza coming in here. Everything in moderation.
Yes, absolutely.
In moderation, but it does help.
Yeah.
So when they say it's changed, what was then the plan? What did they want to do?
Well, they wanted to treat me with radiotherapy and chemotherapy. And it didn't seem to matter which way round you approach that. You can go with the radio first and the chemo second, or vice versa. And eventually they decided to go with the chemotherapy for 12 months and then radiotherapy at the end of that. I had an absolute terror, a terrible fear, because I'd just seen my dad die of cancer. When I had the first symptoms, and I think that fear made me say, no, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah,
and I was thinking, okay, I'll just check out.
Yeah.
I'll just go the natural way, whatever way nature's taking me, that's the way I'll go.
Had your dad had chemo, etc.
He'd had treatment as well.
So you had seen him suffer through that.
And he'd also been treated in the Beatson as well.
Right.
So
it's a lot to then have to think that you're going to have to go down that path as well.
Yeah, because if you've just seen somebody suffer I don't know, is it right to say indignities of treatment?
Yeah.
Then it completely puts you off going through it yourself.
So you took time out, didn't you? And you didn't go for it straight away.
I spent a year without taking any treatment.
And how were you in that time?
I was okay. I was doing the cycling.
Yeah.
But eventually the tumour told me otherwise.
Get off that bike and get into the hospital.
You better get in there. And of course, my timing was perfect because I decided to start treatment on chemotherapy in, I think, August of 2019.
Right.
Which meant, and it was a year of treatment, so that ran right into the beginning of COVID. Lockdowns and so on. And that was really difficult because you're suffering from the treatment, and also to add to that, you've got the kind of isolation. You're not allowed to contact other people.
You're alone,
Yeah.
So
I did a lot of cycling. I don't think I was supposed to be out there on my bike. But,
Shh, we'll not tell anyone.
But I thought I'm on my own, so I can't. It can't.
Yeah.
I can't be infected if I'm cycling about in the countryside.
And did that help you cope?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely.
What was it like being in hospital at that time?
Well, I wasn't actually in hospital. I was given the drugs, which were, I didn't realise there was I think there's somewhere over 100 different chemotherapy drugs. And when you start chemotherapy, you have these fears of, I maybe don't have so much of a fear about losing my hair, but
but you do. You think your appearance is going to change. It's going to wreck your body. It is a frightening thing.
You think you're going to be super skinny and all that kind of stuff. But because I'd taken up cycling, I'd become super fit. So I thought, well, if you're super fit, you're probably going to be able to cope with this an awful lot better than if you're a couch potato.
Yeah. And you see that just now. I think it's very much in the news and things with Sir Chris Hoy, isn't it? Because he talks about that, and he's and he doesn't have a great prognosis, but he is on that bike and he's doing every challenge going.
I haven't been following him, but I didn't realise he was going for it in terms of
he seems to be
fighting.
Yeah, he's still on the bike and and still very much kind of going.
I think that's the only attitude you can take is fight for it because it's your life. Yeah,
and find something that helps you get through it, as you say, whether it's hill walking, swimming, yoga, or things like that. Where are you at just now? Have you finished treatment or?
Well, I've finished treatment, and that was, it was going into COVID, so that would be 2020.
Yeah.
They they say that you can't get your driving license back, for example, for at least a year. You have to be a year clear before you can get your driving license back. And the disturbances, the visual disturbances, the nausea, and the inability to read, those symptoms all disappeared.
Yeah.
And the chemotherapy and radiotherapy, chemotherapy really shrunk the tumour.
Mm-hmm.
The estimate is roughly about 50%, which is pretty good.
Yeah, that's
because
amazing.
it sits within the brain.
Yeah.
It's not on the outer edge. It's not like you can go in
They can't
and
take
it out.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to measure.
Yeah.
But I thought 50% is pretty good.
It's very good. You were showing me some very interesting pictures before.
A picture of the inside of my brain. Yeah.
And so how are you feeling just now?
I feel fine, yeah.
Good.
I try and do all the things that they recommend. Exercise.
Yeah.
So I've moved away from the cycling, which was kind
You
of...
ditched the bike?
I ditched the bike.
Wow.
And I've gone to tennis now. So I play tennis and do photography and I do other bits and pieces of exercise, a bit of yoga and stuff like that, which is quite good at my age.
And it's good for relaxation
Yeah,
and
definitely.
things as well,
Yeah.
just for kind of mindfulness.
Yeah.
How has the diagnosis changed you, do you think?
Oh, that's a difficult question to
Or has
answer.
it changed you?
Has it changed me? So I think it just underlines, kind of underlines who you are and how you think. So you can start with fear and trepidation, but then you've got to find the kind of strength and to get through the chemotherapy and radiotherapy and so on, and just hope that you come out the other side in one piece.
Yeah.
And so it's probably true of most people, I think.
Yeah.
You know, they start with a degree of fear when they finish their treatment. In the Beatson Hospital, they always ring a bell.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, at the end of their treatment. And it's so nice to be in that cafe and see other people come in and ring that bell.
Yeah. It's very emotional, actually.
Yeah. Well, the sad thing about me when I rang the bell was it was complete COVID lockdown.
Oh no, so nobody was there.
There was nobody there. But I thought, I'm going in there and I'm ringing that bell.
Next time I'm there, and if you're in that cafe, because I want to see you, I'm going to get you up there again and get your moment in front of everyone. But that's something. The Beatson has become a special place for you, not just because of your treatment and what it's done for you, but you started to volunteer in the cafe. So how did that come about?
Well, I volunteered in the cafe before I went in for treatment. And the reason for that was I had a terror, a kind of fear of being in that hospital, of going through that treatment. And I thought, well, if I volunteer before I go in for treatment, then I'll be familiar with the place. I'll see other patients come in and leave and ring the bell and all that kind of stuff. And that'll give me a confidence to embrace the place and the treatment. Yeah.
And did it do that? Did that work?
Yeah, it did.
And you've carried on? You still
I've carried on. Yeah.
Volunteer?
It's only a few hours a week, but it's still something.
And what do you enjoy about it?
I think you are, when you have somebody come in, order a coffee, you can talk to them as someone who is, I don't say has been, but is a patient in that hospital. Yeah.
What happens now? Do you go every few months, or what's your kind of plan now?
Well, I was asked last time to come back in 6 months, and I said, can you make it 12? And they said, let me check. And I thought, they'll say no. And the women came back and said, yep, you can come back in 12 months.
Oh, was that a good feeling? Yeah. It's those milestones, isn't it?
Yeah, so they must have instantly weighed up the risks and thought, yeah, it's okay.
He'll be fine.
He'll be all right.
And are you able now then to focus on the future and to enjoy things and not think about it so much, or is it always there?
Always there, just... It's terrible to say at the back of my head.
I put it to the back of my mind.
That would be too literal, really, wouldn't it? Yeah. So it doesn't bother me really. It's just it's just a niggle, if you like.
Yeah.
Not something that's screaming in your face.
Yeah. And we were talking about with our last guest, was there, because sometimes I think it makes you think about things that you want to do, because you go through life so casually going, oh, I'll do that one day, or you know, but suddenly I think when you're faced with something like that, you're like, I need to make the most of things. I want to, there's stuff
You're talking about the bucket list.
The bucket list, yes. Have you got a bucket list, or have I got a bucket list? Or is there anything you want to do?
I tend to, if I come up with a good idea and I think, oh, I'll do it. One of the good things, you might say it's a good thing, you might not say it's a good thing, but one of the things that came out of going through this was I got early retirement.
Yeah.
So I panicked when I first realised I was going to be retired, because I thought, I'm quite young to be retired. What do you do?
All this time?
And I left at quite short notice, and I thought, okay, I'll go travel. That's what I'll do. So I headed off to South America.
Oh, wow!
And spent 6 months there.
What was that like?
That was amazing. Yeah. I didn't think about Venezuela that was the first place I went into.
Wow.
And I thought, this is not the place to be. Everybody seems to be leaving.
Yes, perhaps not a good start. But.
Yeah, and then into Colombia and Ecuador and Argentina and Brazil. And yeah, it's lovely. Yeah.
Gosh, what a time.
And then I came back, and then I had to think about what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So then you try and, it's probably just like anybody else that's retired, you have to build a structure in your life. And so that's, I've done tennis and, cycling and photography and the yoga and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So, yeah.
Take time to enjoy the things that you enjoy and find these new hobbies, which is amazing.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
no, it does. I think that's the thing. It's just, it doesn't have, I think people always think a bucket list has to be massive things, but sometimes it is just as simple as that. It's finding the time to actually prioritize the things you enjoy. And
the other thing I did was I thought, I'm going to challenge my brain and I'm going to try and learn another language.
And how's that going?
What language will I learn? I thought, French. I like the sound of it.
Oui.
Sounds lovely. Absolument.
Oh, you've gone. That's very good. Très bien.
I spent 6 months in France, near Marseille.
And was that lovely?
That was lovely, yeah, gorgeous. It makes me wonder why I live in this, in this climate.
I'd be going back, I think. I would get on my bike over there.
Yeah.
For anyone who's listening to this who has just been diagnosed, as you say, I think that's a really interesting point that you touch on. It's that sometimes, we talk about the Beatson being so welcoming and stuff, but there can be a real fear, because you also know as soon as someone says the Beatson, it kind of hits home, doesn't it? It's cancer. You've got cancer and you're going there. For anyone who's going through it, have you got any advice to them as to how to approach it, or take every day as it comes, or what would you say to anyone who's maybe newly
they always talk about it as a battle, don't they? And it is a battle, and you've got to believe that you're going to win. Yeah.
And you're winning just now. Winning at life.
I think so. I hope so. Yeah.
You really are. It's been a joy to chat to you.
Thank you.
And I look forward to putting your coffee skills to the test. I'll be there in a couple of months, so I'll make sure it's on a day. And thank you so much for joining us. If you or someone you know is affected by cancer and needs support or information, then you can head to BeatsonCancerCharity.org.